Answers. I'm Alison Southwick, and I'm joined as always by Robert. Gosh, I forgot to think of something to call you ahead of time. Brokamp, personal finance expert here at the Motley Fool. Hello, bro.
Well, hello. I think that's as good as any, actually. That was very dramatic. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Well, in this week's episode, we're joined by J Money. He's the founder of Budgets Are Sexy and All Star Money, and I try to make sense of non-fungible tokens. All that and more on this week's episode of Motley Fool Answers.
So, Alison, what's ludicrous?
It's not that ludicrous. There's nothing
Convince me.
ludicrous about it. Okay.
Persuade me, actually, I think is the right word.
Yes. Well, bro, if you're like me, when you first saw the acronym NFT show up in your tweets, you got as far as not for, and then you realized you were quickly going down the wrong path and trying to decipher it. NFT stands for non-fungible tokens. Now, from there, if you're like me, you thought it had something to do with mushrooms, maybe Mario Brothers. I don't know. So then you read a paragraph of an article, got bored or confused, and moved on with the knowledge that all of your assumptions were wrong, but then you didn't actually replace it with any real knowledge. Okay, and so that was fine until you started seeing NFT everywhere, and you realized that maybe you should learn what it means. And also, you have a podcast taping coming up, so here we are. And it's not that ludicrous, bro. Stay with me. All right,
We'll see.
Mitchell Clark wrote a delightful article on The Verge explaining NFTs, so I'm largely relying on that. Also, Wired, New York Times, and a few other places. Let's go. All right. Non-fungible tokens are essentially a way that you can claim ownership of a digital thing. So think music, art, tweets. Yes, these are all reproducible, but so is a postcard of the Mona Lisa. So non-fungible tokens exist on a blockchain, at this point mostly Ethereum, but others are getting on board. And there are online marketplaces like OpenSea, Rarible, and Nifty Gateway, where you can buy and sell the official ownership of the digital thing. Again, we're talking music, video, art, animated GIFs. Now, for artists, this provides a new way to sell your work. And you can also set it up so that you get a little kickback every time the NFT changes hands with a new owner. Well, that's nice. So right now, you're like, bro, why would someone pay millions of dollars for an animated GIF when you can just download it for free? Again, why would someone buy a Monet painting for millions when you can get it on a mug from the gift shop for $15? And so it all comes down to the basic tautology that some things have value just because someone decides it has value. Now, for some people, the value might be bragging rights. To that end, you get to buy an NFT for a digital drawing of a cat because you are looking for a new way to show people you are wealthy. For others, the value might be about your fandom or support of an artist or musician. Kings of Leon, Grimes, Deadmau5, and many others have released NFTs for music and art. And for others, the value might be purely speculative. You're buying the NFT for a digital drawing of a cat because you think it will rise in value, as many other people agree they want that authentic digital drawing of a cat. And you're like, seriously? Digital cat drawings? Yes. 10 years ago, a guy named Chris Torres created the animated meme Nyan Cat. You know it as the flying cat with a Pop-Tart for a body and it's leaving a rainbow trail behind. As soon as you Google it, you're going to be like, oh yeah, Nyan Cat. I totally know what you're talking about. So in February, Torres created an NFT version and put it up for auction. And it sold for nearly $600,000 following a last-minute bidding frenzy. Other NFTs out there, William Shatner's dental x-ray, digital baseball cards, photos of Lindsay Lohan, and the first tweet by Jack Dorsey just sold for $2.9 million. Don't feel too bad because the proceeds are going to go support a charity. So there's that. Now, NFTs are definitely booming right now, with probably more speculators than collectors and fans driving up prices. But experts looking beyond the boom see a great opportunity for a new way to guarantee authenticity. So, for example, Nike already has a patent to create NFTs attached to shoes to guarantee their authenticity called crypto kicks. So, when you consider that a pair of Air Jordan 12 flu games are worth more than $100,000, yeah, I think I want an NFT with that purchase, please. And maybe you're still skeptical, like a bunch of people in the comments of the articles I read. But seriously, how is this all that new and different? It's not like people buy sneakers, art, or baseball cards for the value of the materials themselves. They buy them for the aesthetics, the design, the rarity. As the New York Times quoted Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz, a $200 pair of sneakers is like $5 in plastic. You're buying a feeling. And right now, the feeling that NFTs offer is similar to one a stamp collector or baseball card collector or art collector or someone in fashion or even a speculator might feel. It's that feeling that you are special because you own something someone else wants. And that, bro, is what's ludicrous. Or really, is it? Come on.
J Money, not his real name. Founder of the offbeat personal finance website, budgetsaresexy.com. J Money, welcome to Motley Fool Answers.
Hello, I love that intro. I'm going to record that, take that everywhere with me. I love it.
So let's start with some biographical info. Ready? So you're a military kid. Your dad was in the Marines.
Yes, sir.
You studied graphic design in college, tried to make it in the Big Apple in New York City for a while, returned to DC, and you had kind of all kinds of oddball jobs. Customer service, working in a stamp factory, I think wading into the exciting world of ringtones or something like that. But then in 2007, you and your fiance, who is now your wife, began looking for an apartment. And why don't you take the story from there?
Oh, yeah. We started to look for an apartment because we were going to live together and took a wrong turn one day. And we saw this nice townhouse that was near water and it was for sale. And so, of course, you know what you do when you're looking to rent is you go and look for a house for sale. Called a realtor. He was amazing, amazingly good at his job. He came, showed us the house. And in a nutshell, within 48 hours, no money down, no real plan. We literally spent $350,000 on a house when we went to rent a 2-bedroom place. And that really, was a crazy spur of the moment thing you don't, usually want to do. But that really opened my eyes to like, wait, maybe I should pay attention to my money. I went Googling how to budget, all that good stuff. And I came across all these blogs, all these people talking and sharing real life numbers and real life budgets and net worth. And that was like mind blowing for me, just seeing real numbers.
And so that inspired you to form a website called budgetsaresexy.com. Obviously, the name is catchy. By the way, when I was looking up the definition of sexy, I saw synonyms was bodacious. So I don't know if budgets are bodacious was something also you considered. But how did you decide on the name of the site?
So at the time, Justin Timberlake's I'm Bringing Sexy Back song, that's how long ago. It's 12, 13 years old now. And I loved it. And, and money, like when I started reading for about 6 or 7 months online, like I thought people were interesting, but it was kind of like the boring stuff over and over again. And I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to start writing, I want it to be fun, edgy, like if you have sexy in it, right? Like millions of search, you're going to get all these people from Google come in. I was trying to game the market a little bit, game the system. But really, I just thought it was fun. And to me at the time, like once I got my budget going, like I realized it gave me kind of confidence. And I was like, ooh, budgets give you confidence. And what makes you sexy is confidence. And so it kind of, just did it for fun. And now people can't. Some people it's blocked at work. You can't even get to it. So that was like my grand scheming didn't even work in the end for that.
Well, also probably because you use some colorful language here and there every once in a while. And
I do, yes.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's fine. It's part of the character of the whole thing.
Well, and I find too, like for me, as I learn, like talking to someone, at a coffee shop or just, a friend, and you try and be, you're real because you're talking in real life, and so for me, like people that do that online, like it resonates with me and I feel like I'm there in the room. And so I try to not monitor myself with that, as best as I can, at least.
One point you alluded to is that you found these other bloggers out there basically opening their monetary kimono and showing their net worth, which is something you do, which is, I assume, why you have a pseudonym, because J Money is not your real
Yes.
name.
Right.
So tell me about that. That takes a lot of guts, in my opinion.
Yes, well, I'll say it's a little easier when you don't have money. And at first, when I first started, like I was in my mid-20s, I'm now 41, 42, who knows? And so I started tracking, and at the time, I realized I had about $40,000 or $50,000, like in 401k and in some cash, money, but not a drastic amount. So I was never really worried about I didn't get nervous sharing it at all. But I was nervous because I would talk about work a lot on my blog. So I decided to be anonymous there. And then I knew in a perfect world, hopefully the money would grow. And so I started sharing from the beginning what was my savings, investments, debt, car payment, mortgage, once I had that now. And that really helped me to really track over the years and see what I was doing good and bad. And ultimately, this is blasphemy, for me to say, but I stopped budgeting about 5 or 6 years ago. And now all I do is track my net worth. And that number alone keeps me on track, keeps me motivated, and again, you could see your transformation over the years when you publicly publish it like that.
And I think you're comfortable with me sharing with the world that you're a millionaire at this point.
Hey, excited. Yes. No one cared when that happened. I was like, oh, that was fun. That should be a celebration, but no.
But that is your net worth, right? It's about 1.1, 1.2 million at this point, something like that.
Yes. And I published, all the way up until basically I sold the blog to a wonderful, wonderful company you might have heard of called the Motley Fool. And so, yeah, that was my last hurrah, we crossed 1 million, and then that felt like that, I think after that, I would start feeling a little weird sharing because the numbers get higher with COVID and everything, just a whole brand new world, so.
I think you were doing two things that I think are probably helpful. And that is, first of all, the tracking and the sharing of your net worth, because they kind of involve a little bit of accountability. And do you feel like that helped you at all? When you put it out there, you're like, okay, I actually have to take this seriously.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because especially if you broadcast it to, all around the world, I know I have to back it up or at least just say, hey, I did something stupid, So every time I had the credit card or I was thinking of a big decision, I always thought immediately, what is going to happen to my net worth report, And it's kind of stupid and nerdy, but at the same time, it really did stop me from doing, a lot of crazy things, at that time that I was interested in doing. So yeah, it helped me kept accountable, it helped me kept on track. And really now the net worth was what got me interested in the financial blogs, in general, was the real life transparency from real life people. I just love that.
So besides Budgets Are Sexy, you kind of built up at one point a sort of a mini blog empire. Tell us a little bit about that experience of you're essentially like an online landlord in a way.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I didn't really know about making money online. I knew people had ads, but I didn't really understand. I'm not an entrepreneur by heart. It was all kind of accidental. I started the blog for fun, to be accountable, and then all of a sudden, an advertiser would say, oh, hey, here's $50 if you want to put up an ad. And I was like, this is great. I'm doing it for free. This is wonderful money. And then as it got going, I realized there was more to it. And one day a blog friend of mine said, hey, I can't blog anymore. Do you want to buy my blog? And I thought, you can't buy a blog. It's your diary. How could you buy that? But in a sense, he was making money, $200 or $300 a month, and it was technically a business. He said, look, we'll just hire a writer. You just manage it. You own it. And, whatever the difference from the income and the expenses is your profit. And I said, no. And then finally he was like, look, I don't know, maybe he wanted $10,000 for it. And then I think I got it for $3,000 or $4,000. And the number, I think maybe it was making $400 or $500 a month too, because I remember it making a lot of sense. And at that time I said, you know what, it's worth the risk. Let me see what happens. So I bought it. And then I realized, wait, that blog gets advertisers. My blog gets advertisers. You can cross promote the advertisers, double the real estate, right, online. And then a light bulb came on and I was like, wow, this is great. And so then I started looking and even asking bloggers, hey, if you're ever done blogging, I'd be interested in buying your site. In about 5 years, I had about 12 or 13 sites I was managing. I only wrote for mine, Budgets Are Sexy, and the rest, they were just side properties. And that was great until I started having kids and I was working 60, 70 hours a week. And I thought, this is not like the lifestyle like you kind of want as a blogger, right? Like this is not what they think. And so I ended up, phasing that out. But yeah, that's how it all got started. It really opened my eyes on just the online world and making money.
I'm curious about one other thing that you tried during this period, and that is being sort of a money coach. What does that involve, and how did that work out?
So over time, people would say, hey, like, can we hop on the phone or can I ask you questions on money? And I would do it. And what I realized was that it is about money, but at the end of the day, like it was always about their dreams and always about what people wanted out of life. And so when I started doing the coaching, I started offering coaching, because it was fun and people were asking for it. And then I realized you were kind of like a financial therapist, like you were talking about money, but it was more about like what you wanted to get, out of life and your dream lifestyle. I did it for about 2 or 3 years. And eventually it was just so emotionally draining because you just talk about life and dreams and goals and failures, I would charge, $50, $100 a session and help people, to realize, their dreams over the course of a few years or at least get started. It was a lot of fun, but really draining.
So I don't know if you know this, but I actually have a graduate certificate in financial therapy because
wow, that's a real thing.
That's a real thing. It's a budding thing. It's only been around since maybe the late 2009-ish or so.
Okay.
But because both people in the counseling profession and people in the financial planning profession realize that money and emotional well-being and happiness are so intertwined that you kind of have to know a little bit of both.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I love that.
So since people think often of personal finance bloggers, and they kind of put them into camps. Like there's FIRE, minimalists, like me, family finance experts, maybe side hustle experts. Where would you put yourself?
I guess I would put myself, like I'm kind of a go with the flow type of person. Like even though I'm a finance guy, like I'm very bad at planning, but I'm very good at figuring out like how I feel about things and I'm in tune with my emotions, maybe a little too much. And so I am into minimalism and I am into the concepts of FIRE. So those are the two that I'd probably pick. I have no plans on really retiring, but the financial independence part of that FIRE, to give you freedom and options, I think is huge. And then with minimalism, of course, the less stuff you own, the less you maintain. And I'm realizing as I get older that all the stuff I thought I cared about growing up and stuff, fancy cars, big houses and everything, like I just don't. And it actually weighs me down. And, even buying that house all those years ago, that was probably like one of my biggest, financial regrets because I was tied and emotional regrets. But at the same time, it opened me up to, talking to you and building blogs. And so it's interesting, like a lot of people either, there is the financial aspect and then there's the emotional aspect, but you have to figure out where you fall. And then, there's different solutions depending on your personality and your comfort levels.
So you talked about your house. You just mentioned cars, and then the typical American budget, the house is the number one item. Car is the second item. CNBC just published an article that cited stats from Experian, which found that the new average monthly loan payment for a new car is $600, near $600, an all-time high.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
A lot of people are devoting a lot of their budget to cars. Now, you, on the other hand, had the Franken-Caddy. Tell us a little bit. Tell us about the Franken-Caddy.
Oh, yeah, I miss her, man. Yeah, she was a 93 Cadillac DeVille. I bought it from a mechanic who had bought it from an older person that really drove it. I think it had like 80,000 miles on it. It was only $3,000. And I at the time, this is right when I started getting into money and paying attention and kind of challenging, what do I have? What do I need? What do I actually care about? And I had an SUV at the time that I paid, I think, $23,000 for. And at the time I was like, wow, like I can just sell that, buy a beater car that I actually happen to love, and not have to worry, right? The SUV was more new. Like I was worried about rocks hitting it. I was just worried, again, going back to the emotional state. And I realized that you can be like, and I am a car guy to a degree, but what I know is like, I could be happy in a lot of different cars. I could be happy in a hoopty. I could be happy in a Rolls Royce. I could be happy in a lot of different ones, so whatever one fits me financially is probably the one I should choose. And so if they're equal happiness, then I revert to the Lormont. And the Cadillac was great. So I bought it, drove it around for many years. It kept getting in car accidents. People would hit me. It was even parked and people would hit it when it was parked. And every time, the insurance, it wasn't worth anything, right? But the insurance is like, oh, that'll cost $1,200, to fix. And I'm like, great, I will just take the check. I will not fix it. And so over the years, I think it earned about $2,000 or $3,000 and basically paid for itself. But it was great. It kept adding character, over the degrees where I just called it like a Frankenstein kind of car because it was just bent up and it had a mishmash of different parts in it, that I had to get street legal, at least. So yeah, it was a great car and I miss her.
Yeah, I suppose was kids one of the reasons why you eventually had to get rid of it?
Yeah, that's it, man. I'd still be driving it right now, but it wasn't all safe all the way. Some of the seatbelts in the back weren't working. It, wasn't updated, safety stuff. And so once I had the kids, had to make the decision. And of course, the real life babies come before, non-real life babies. So yep, that started the descent into being an adult and being a father. And actually a lot of the last 5 years is really of me coming to terms with, looking for other people and not just myself all the time.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, you've got 3 kids. I've got 4 kids, and mine are older than yours, but it keeps going. It just keeps going. So I've already pointed out that you are a millionaire. One of my all-time favorite books is The Millionaire Next Door, which found that real-life millionaires are not what you would think with the big house and fancy car. They're basically people who just find ways to live below your means. I think you completely fit that profile. Also, I know from other interviews you've done in other podcasts, you've said that your wife is super frugal. And one of the findings of The Millionaire Next Door was that the wife tends to be more frugal than the husband.
Mm-hmm.
What are some good practices that you and your wife have put into place, or maybe you've seen from other couples when it comes to managing finances as a couple? Because I know for many couples, they're not on the same page.
Yeah, I think we've played with different rules and different things. We first had our money separate for the first few years of dating and marriage. And then when, getting into minimalism and trying to figure out a best strategy, we started combining. And I know there's certain things that she's good at and enjoys and then vice versa. And one thing that she hates is dealing with money. And so lucky for me, I love it. So I said, well, let me take control of some of the stuff you don't like and I'll do it. And then some of the stuff that I don't like that she's good at or enjoys, she took over. So trying to figure out where our sweet spots in the beginning was really helpful. And then of course, yes, it's good. If you can marry someone frugal, I mean that, and I think a lot of us too, especially when you're younger, you don't really care or think about that stuff. I did it. I did not care about money whatsoever when I met my wife, and so it's more about the connection. But as you get older and you pay attention to this stuff, of course, that is good if you can figure that out early on. But as far as different things we did, we had 2 things in the beginning that I've done and I've seen other people do. We had a blow money where it's just hey, this is your account. I think we had $50 a month or $100 a month that we each got. And we can spend it, no questions asked, on whatever stupid thing the other person thinks it is. And that saved us from budgeting everything and asking permission and all that kind of stuff. It was just pure independence money.
Is there anything that you had trouble letting go of or sacrificing and be man, there's no way I can live without that? But then you did it and you're you know what? This wasn't so bad after all.
Yes, iPhones. I thought there was no way you can pry one of those things out of my hands. And over the years, again, going back to challenging, I'm big into experimenting and challenging myself. And one month I was you know what? What do I use and do I need it? And what do I like about it? What do I don't? Can I swap it out? Right. And the iPhone, that was the big thing, right? I love it, but I was well, what do I really love about it? Taking pictures, texting, calling people, internet. And, obviously with smartphones, you could do that with any phone. It does not have to be the iPhone. And so over a month or so, I started, really thinking about looking at other plans. And then I switched, and I think we were paying, for my wife and I both, about $150, $200 a month on cell phone plans. We switched to Republic Wireless, and at the time, I think it was $20 or $25 a month. And so right now, actually, even today, we spend $50 a month, for a phone that takes pictures. You could text, you can get to the internet, and that's $150 saving every month. And that really that's really hard to do, is to switch subscriptions, of course, and especially a phone, because it's annoying, right? There's no fun switching and adding numbers and doing all that good stuff. But what I realized is that it's continual money. And if you do one hard thing first and then it continues to save you, if you put it in the bank account right away, you're actually literally saving it for the rest of your life in theory. So that's the trick, is not to start spending it somewhere else, and then in which case, you break even. But once I did that, I was like, oh, I'm feeling good. And then I later canceled cable, which, nowadays isn't, that common, or is very common. But back then, 5 or 6 years ago, like, it was starting to go, and I started tiny, like, breaking off some parts of the cable bill. And then finally I got rid of that altogether and haven't looked back. And I think that was about $50 or $60 in savings too. So that right there was $200 every month. And I'm not doing a thing, it's thousands of dollars now. So that was, my experience. And now that's what I do when I look at subscriptions, especially. I'm like, what can I kill? Even stuff that I like, sometimes I try and challenge myself to kill it. And then you can always add it back later if you really, really miss it.
I've mentioned your site many times over the years, budgetsaresexy.com, because it has a great page for free budgeting templates. And last week we talked about tools on the show, and we mentioned, like Mint and Personal Capital and all those. But when slagging with you, you mentioned a couple of others that maybe folks don't know so much about. So I thought if you could take some time to talk about them, that'd be great. And they are Digit and Acorns.
Oh, sure. So Digit is basically an app that you sign up, you connect your account with, and it's a little freaky sounding, but it'll basically analyze your spending and see what you can actually save. And instead of just like alerting you or telling you, hey, you can save this, right? Like, it literally pushes the money into savings for you. So again, it's a little freaky. They go in, analyze, push it in there, but it actually takes action on your behalf. If you are horrible at saving, that's really, really good. People that are good at it, like us, like it doesn't really make sense for. But for people that just want to save, and even temporarily, let's say you're saving for a trip, it'll push $15 here, $17 there. Sometimes it even pushes like $2 and like 30 cents. Like, it just analyzes your stuff. So I really like Digit. And then Acorns is a little different. It rounds up all of your spending that you're doing. Like, let's say you bought $5.30 coffee. It'll round up the 70 cents, up to the dollar, and then drop that into investments. So that's an easy way to invest without doing a thing, all automated. And again, mainly for people that, aren't that good at it, that want to do it but don't know how, is kind of gets you going. And then usually when you get good at it, you can kind of, do it yourself. And because all these apps, cost $1, $2, $3 a month, minimal, but at least get you going. At least you're saving and investing right away than versus thinking about it all the time.
Got it. So as you referenced earlier in the show, you no longer own budgetsaresexy.com.
Ah, crazy.
You sold it to some crazy company called the Motley Fool. You'd been writing the blog since 2008. What was behind the decision to make that transition?
Yeah, a number of things. Over the years, I realized that I no longer am motivated by money or like empire building, taking over the world. Like, I kind of realized where happiness is for me. And it's in waking up, kind of working on something for a few hours I enjoy. And then with the rest of my time, just doing whatever I want to do, right? Hang out with the kids, read. I'm into like cemeteries, go visit a cemetery, collect coins, which I do for fun. And so and again, as an entrepreneur person, you're always building and building. And so even going back to owning the 12 or 13 different sites, I realized that is not like helpful for a lifestyle. It's great for money and business and stuff, but not if you want to, not work as much. Right. And so over the years, I started selling, a blog or other projects I have. And Budgets Are Sexy was my baby and my online resume. And so that was really hard, but and with minimalism too, I wanted to get freedom, and I really wanted to challenge myself. Can I still enjoy what I do for a living and still be in the personal finance space without owning anything? Right. And so, I was waiting for the right company. I almost sold it a few years ago, but more out of wanting, money and more desperation than anything else. There was a few years in my life in blogging, and this is all in the blog, where I started losing money. I started not wanting to work as much. And so I started losing money and depleting my savings. Right. And again, that was a pure lifestyle choice, but it has consequences. And so at any rate, when you guys came along, it just natural fit. The cultures were really nice. And I thought, you know what, now is the time to do it. And you guys said, hey, here's some money to buy it. We will even pay you to continue writing for it. And I thought, this is perfect. Like, this is great. I don't have to worry about marketing, business, accounting, all this stuff, growth that comes with, being an entrepreneur. Like, yes, we write blogging, but there's all this other stuff people don't think about. So freedom, number one, was, what was it? Challenging myself, number two, with the minimalism stuff. And then ultimately, it's over a fourth of my life I've been a blogger. And so my identity is so wrapped up in it. And what happens when you sell something? Do I go away? Do people not talk to me anymore? It's just so weird to think about, and I did. And what I did is I kept my Twitter, because that's like what I love. And so I still have @budgets_are_sexy, and I sold, and then like nothing really happened, and I was still writing for it, but I'm still around. And so that was like, wow, I can still do what I want to do, but I can release all of the responsibility of ownership, and the same with owning stuff, right? Like, it's a different mentality, and I love it. I'm big into no responsibility, even though I have like 1 million kids.
That you know of.
I know. Yeah.
So one aspect of your new life is another Fool property, some way to say it, I guess, and that is All-Star Money, allstarmoney.com. And it basically, you're scanning more than 1,500 personal finance blogs and highlighting 3 great posts every day. So tell us, first of all, a little bit about why the financial blog community is so interesting and compelling.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to just real life people talking about real life money, and sharing their stories and their ups and their downs. And it's just such a fun, entertaining way to learn. You kind of learn accidentally. You start reading about the people, about their situations, you relate to it. Some things you're like, oh, you're an idiot, you shouldn't do that. Other times like, oh, that's great. Like, I'm going to steal that idea from you, versus like a lot of corporate sites, and this, they're all like, they all tell you what you already know, like how to save money, make peanut butter jelly sandwiches, cut insurance. It's all stuff we all know. Everyone knows how to save money, but like, what gets you to actually take action? And for me and a lot of people, it's people telling different stories and anecdotes and stuff until something clicks, and so the community is great. And also, 1,500 blogs, and there's probably another 500 out there we're not tracking yet. We keep adding daily, but they're all around the world and all different types, right? So you got people, in the UK talking, you have different, the FIRE groups. There's a whole group for physicians and money, people that make a lot of money, that spend a lot of money. Like, how do they, reach financial independence? You have FIRE, you have, LGBTQ plus, you have all these different niches, women, men, gay, straight. It's amazing, different cultures. So anything with money all around the world, people are writing about it. And for free, like, they're just doing it, right? And some make money. So anyway, years ago, I had a site called Rockstar Finance, and I thought, you know what? I read articles. I love sharing. I'm just going to share my favorite 3 every day. And that way people can, say, hey, here's the breadth of everything. Find a blogger that you love and start following them, and you don't have to search all the internet. You can just come here every day and see what you like and what you don't like in different perspectives. And so that was the germ of it years ago. And I bought that and we sold it, and it kind of crashed and burned. When you sell something, you don't really think what's going to happen after the second or third person owns it. It crashed and burned, and everyone missed it, and I missed it. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. Like, I enjoyed reading it, even when I sold it. And the Motley Fool team, came in, we talked and said, let's rebuild it. Let's add it to the community. And so, here we are now. It's awesome.
That's great. So let's close with a reading recommendation, or a few. It can be a book, a blog, a specific post. Maybe it was written by you or anyone else, or all 3, whatever. But it could be something that, maybe had a big impact on you, or something you'd recommend for people who want to be better with their money.
Yeah. So something that's changed me a lot with mentality and just the hustle nature, if you just tend to hustle a lot and want to do everything at once, was a book called Essentialism by Greg McCone, something like that. And it really helps you take stock of what you're doing in career, if you're building something, and kind of funneling it out all the nonsense that we do, and just focusing on, the 20% that makes 80%, sense and growth. And so for me, I kind of realized, like, there's money, there's time, there's all this stuff that paying attention to finances does. But I wanted time. Time for me is like the number one thing. Like, how do you have more time? So everything I do now structures around having that ideal lifestyle. And essentialism really helped me narrow that down. And there's a lot of other great finance books. You mentioned The Millionaire Next Door. The Automatic Millionaire is an interesting one. I think all this stuff depends on your mentality. Do you just want like steps, or do you want to kind of like have stories and be entertained? Richest Man in Babylon is a really good storybook. And again, with the personal finance, community, like anything you're looking for is being talked about online, and so it's so nice with the internet to be able to find everything so fast, and people that are genuinely helpful and nice and not much of, chaos and toxicness, which, exists in other communities online. Like it's hard to get mad at budgeting. I do get hate mail. Oh, that's not how you budget. I'm never reading again. Right. Like you still get hate mail, but it's a little different than other, like a political blog. You know what I'm saying? So the community is generally warm and welcoming, which also helps to the the pie.
Well, folks, our guest today has been the pseudonymous J Money. You can learn more about him at jmoney.biz, read his past writings at budgetsaresexy.com, and read what he thinks are the best personal finance blogs published every day at allstarmoney.com. J Money, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Do you know that you and I met 12 years ago?
I was trying to find email to determine when it was, but it was at that AARP event that I was leading some round table, right?
Yeah. And you were one of the first people outside of the blogging community that reached out. And it's so funny that we're here a decade later talking and that you guys bought budgets. It's amazing.
We're kind of colleagues or something like that.
There you go. Yeah, look at that. We're both a decade older now, too, unfortunately.
That's true, but you still have more hair. It's mohawk hair, but it's more hair. Anyways, great having you on the show.
All right, that's the show. It's edited non-fungibly by Rick Engdahl. Our email is answers@fool.com. Yes, of course, we do have a mailbag episode coming up soon, so send in some questions. We'll try to answer them. For Robert Brokamp, I'm Alison Southwick. Stay foolish, everybody.